Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on a KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome to the review of Lucasfilm Disney Plus brand new science fiction adventure show, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. First two episodes premiered this Tuesday, December the 3rd. How are you doing out there, you Star Wars fans, you geeks, you nerds, and everything in between? I know there was some anticipation for this show. I know Star Wars has not, how can I put this kindly, has not delivered um, to everybody's expectations as of late. Uh, the Acolyte kind of swung and missed, became a little diversive. You had Ahsoka, which was a highly anticipated show, and it didn't quite deliver to everybody's expectations. I think Andor was pretty well received, but Andor was very adult. That was more of an adult Star Wars property or show. And, I enjoyed the show, but I could see where that wasn't Star Wars. There was no Force, there was no Jedi's and lightsaber battles, or even star battles, or battles in space or anything like that. So it was grounded, and it didn't have, I guess you could say, elements of Star Wars in it. So a lot of Star Wars fans were kind of detached from the show. I think a lot of people agreed that it was a good show, that first season, leading into the second season that's coming up next year. But Star Wars just hasn't really done anything that got the masses pumped up and excited in anticipation. I think since maybe the Force Awakens. I think that was the last time everybody was just on the edge of their seat, excited and couldn't wait. The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker. Of course, that's those are two of the most divisive films in Star Wars lore. So they didn't quite hit the mark, but uh, everybody was super excited. Disney taking over Lucasfilm. We getting a new Star Wars film, and The Force Awakens. It was like the trailer. Remember that opening trailer for that show or for that movie? It was something has awakened. Do you feel it? It's like the Force did truly awake in the Star Wars fandom, and everybody was excited. And so it hasn't quite delivered since. And I, I've heard, because I'm constantly researching and looking into stuff. And so I'm kind of in the know. But to the layman, I don't think a lot of people were aware of Skeleton Crew. But in the little circle that I travel in, people were kind of excited for it because of the promise of getting something new and inventive in the Star Wars universe. Skeleton Crew tells a coming of age story about four children who make a discovery on their home planet, get lost in the galaxy, and go on an adventure to get back home. And it stars Jude Law and four of the most adorable children on God's green earth. This show is Goonies mixed with Star Wars. This is Stranger Things mixed with Star Wars, or even a little Stand By Me mixed with Star Wars. These children uh, getting into this adventure and causing havoc wherever they go. Very much of the 80s Amblin Entertainment style of coming of age films, back in that era, which a vast majority of Star Wars fans grew up in. So this is something that has been missing from Star Wars. I don't think we've ever gotten anything like this in Star Wars. Even Ewoks, that movie back in the day, that didn't touch in onto your childish sensibilities. This is truly a if Steven Spielberg made a Star Wars film in 1986 or something, it would be Skeleton Crew. This show, it was created by John Watts and Christopher Ford. John Watts, in case you don't know, is the director of the last three Spider-Man films with Tom Holland. You know, Homecoming, Far From Home, and the colossal hit No Way Home. And this is somewhat of a dream project of his. Man, look, he directed the first episode, and I loved the vibe. It really set the tone for hopefully the rest of this show. You know, the rest of this season. So far so good. This is mostly what I can say about it. It's really not much to talk about in these first two episodes. Where this was basically the setup going forward in the show or this season. I don't know if this is going to be a one and done season or multiple seasons. I don't know. They haven't announced anything. I guess they're waiting to see if this is going to be successful or not. I, so far so good. You know, I've been burnt by Star Wars. It just like my daughter told me when I told her about the show. I was like, "You gonna watch the show with me?" And she like, "No." Normally they'll watch these shows. Now my youngest daughter watched it with me. Now my oldest daughter, she like, "Nah, I'm just burnt out with Star Wars." You know, she was so crushed by the acolyte. I mean, her soul was just ripped out of her body with that show. She just was so upset on how that show played out. And I couldn't get mad at it. Even though I didn't hate the show, I didn't hate it, but I understood people who didn't like it. And my daughter was one of them. And from that moment on, she checked out. She honestly checked out on Star Wars. I'm gonna try to convince her, talk her into watching this because I think she would enjoy this. This was fun. If I can wrap it up in one word, it's fun. This really brought back memories of watching the Goonies, watching Stand By Me. Most recently, like I mentioned before, watching Stranger Things. You know, these kids getting into mischief and going on this adventure, and you know, it's exciting. I remember being a kid and wishing I can go down that giant water slide like they did in the Goonies, looking for a pirate ship and whatnot. It just so happened in this show, they're on a pirate ship and it ends up getting lost in space. But there's so much potential here. Excited to see Jude Law in Star Wars, and non-spoiler, because it's really nothing to spoil, but it appears that there's more to him than meets the eye. And I'm excited to see how that character slowly reveals himself to be something more than what we initially thought he was when we first was introduced to this character. So it looks like it's going to be a really fun ride with Jude Law playing off of these young kids. And that's another thing I can say thus far, these first two episodes, the kids steal the show. And this show wouldn't work if it wasn't for these four kids. These young actors and actresses are killing it. I love the chemistry between the four of them. I know one of them is just voiced by a character, but it's still a performer inside of a suit. The character of Neil, which is a cute little elephant alien hybrid thing, but he's cute, you know. And I just love how they're all bouncing off of one another, and it's just a joy, man. It truly feels like Goonies. And in case you don't know, Goonies is one of my favorite movies growing up. Guilty pleasure or not, it's still up there with me. I absolutely love that film, and it definitely has the vibes of that in this show. It's tough. It's tough to kind of really fully throw yourself in it, because just like my daughter did with The Acolyte, you're scared. You're scared that they're not gonna land this plane. Because for me personally, I enjoyed how The Acolyte started. It just ended bad. I enjoyed how Ahsoka started. It just ended bad. You know, it fell apart in the last few episodes. Uh Obi-Wan Kenobi started off pretty good, fell apart in the last few episodes. It's just a pattern that goes on these Disney Plus Star Wars shows that, you know, is so formulaic, and I don't understand why it's doing it. You know, you get 3 good episodes and then the bottom falls out. I'm hoping and praying that they turn the corner here. And I feel a little confident with this because of the story. We're not linked up to, at least as it stands right now, they could link it up to Luke and Leia and Han Solo. Who knows? But right now it's its own separate story, and it's, you know, it's not pigeonholed to making sure that it stays canon with this and that and with the Mandalorian and all this here. It's its own story. And if it stays on that path this season and it keeps the vibe that we've gotten these first 2 episodes, I think this will be the saving grace that Star Wars desperately need. I'm not going to grade these first 2 episodes. All I can say is I deeply enjoyed them. I had a real good time watching it. I love the chemistry between the actors. I love the vibe, the tone. If there's one knock I have of these first 2 episodes, the second episode was kind of short. I think it was like 30 minutes long, but it just felt a little rushed and clunky. I don't know why. It's just something about it. Maybe it was me wanting more and not wanting it to end, you know, but it just felt like we kind of rushed to the end of that episode. And, you know, they could have stretched that out a little longer, 10, 15 more minutes, that episode. And, you know, it got a little bit more. Got a little bit more. Oh, before I get out of here, I was shocked. I didn't know this going into the show. And when it happened, I was like, wait, what? Jaleel White is in this show. If you don't know the name Jaleel White, you would know a character he played for many moons, many decades ago. He played Steve Urkel on Family Matters. It blew my mind because I haven't seen Jaleel White since he played Urkel. I'm honest to God, and I'm pretty sure the man's been working, you know, doing other stuff, but this was my first time. And when he turned and looked and then he spoke, and I was like, wait, that's Steve Urkel. I was so happy. I don't know. I almost cried. I was like, man, I miss Steve Urkel. It was crazy, but that was a nice touch. You know, since we on this nostalgia train with this show, hey, why not? Why not put Steve Urkel in it? But yeah, I'm enjoying the show. I hope that you've checked it out as well. If you have, I would love to know your thoughts of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which is currently on Disney Plus. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this little dive into the first 2 episodes of Disney Plus Lucasfilm new show, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.